This is the Playful Tones brand package. It is an After Effects template and it is free for all Production Crate users. It does require Adobe After Effects Creative Cloud. This was made in the 2017 version. Inside of the project file, you have both a 1080 as well as a 4K option. For this breakdown, I'm just going to be using the 1080 option. I'm going to go ahead and toggle down the Use folder. And within the Use folder, you will see an Export These folder. Here you can see the 9 different elements you can use for your branding. We have a background, a bug for your logo, end card, logo animation, lower third, sidebar pop-out, thumbnail, and 2 different transitions. In order to edit this template, first choose whether you want to work in 1080 or 4K, then find the Edit These First folder. I'll go ahead and toggle that down. Here you can see your base colors and different text and logo compositions that you need to edit. I'm going to go ahead and start with my colors first, so I'm going to toggle down this folder. Here I can see the 5 different colors that I'm using throughout this project. If you have a brand book or a style guide that has a color palette already selected, you can go ahead and import that. If you don't, I suggest going to color.adobe.com. There you can go ahead and create your own palette or download from various options. Once you've done that, you can find those downloaded palettes by going to Window, Extensions, and selecting the Adobe color themes. So now I'm going to start changing the colors within my template to start matching the colors from a palette I've selected. So I'm going to select this main color composition and just double click that. And I'm going to hit Control Y or Command Y if you're on a Mac and select my eyedropper. Now the template I think I want to use is probably this one here. I like these tones. Actually, let's go with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and select this first color here, hit OK. What that does is it creates a new solid, and that's going to be used procedurally throughout this entire project. I'm going to go ahead and do that for the remaining colors as well. So now I've created a new solid for all of my colors. You could also drop videos or different patterns here and they will show up throughout your project. You obviously have a ton of freedom with how you use these, but for now I'm just going to be using these colors. So the next thing I want to do now that I've changed all my colors is I want to go ahead and change my text in my lower third. So I'm going to select this lower third text composition and just double click it. And what I want to do is just change the text. So first name, last name. And instead of using this font, I think I want to find a different font. Avenir Next maybe, that's kind of cool, works with the style. And maybe I'll change it to bold. And I'll do the same for the subtitle text. If I jump back into my Export These folder and find my lower thirds composition, open that up, you'll see that it did change the font here. So the next thing I want to do is navigate to the Put Your Logo Here composition, which is in the Edit These First folder. I'll just double click that. And I just want to import and drop my logo into this comp. So I've imported my logo. It is an Illustrator file. I'm just going to drag that directly onto this composition. Hit S for scale and let's just scale that up. Now we don't have the continuously rasterize on, so I'm losing some resolution. So I just want to enable that right here. And the next thing I want to do is just delete or disable the visibility of this text. Great, so now I've gone through and changed all my colors to match my palette. I've changed my lower third text and I've placed my logo thumbnail where I want it to be. Now there's one more composition we need to edit. It is the Put Your Logo Thumbnail here. So I'm just going to double click that composition and do the same thing I did before. So I will drag this Illustrator file directly into it. I will hit S for scale, scale it up. And for my Your Logo Here text, I'll just delete it this time. At this point, I've gone through all the compositions in the Edit These First folder. The next thing I want to do is find the Export These folder. And I just want to go composition by composition and make sure everything looks the way I want to look. So the first thing I noticed when watching this background composition is I don't really like this orange color. So I want to change that. The way I'm going to do that is by finding the Base Colors folder and just finding the one that is orange. When I select the comp, you can see the color in the top left here in my projects panel. And I believe it is the other color, number 5, which has the orange. So I'm just going to double click that composition. I think I want the white that we're using here, which is probably more of an eggshell white. So I'll hit Control Y, select my eyedropper, and just choose that white. Hit OK, and now if I navigate back to my background composition, let's play that out. Yeah, that looks a lot cleaner to me. So I think I'm sticking with this for my background. Now let's check out the bug. That looks good to me. My end card. If I had black text instead of white, I think this would look pretty nice, but I think I actually want a black background instead. But I did just switch to this white background from that orange in this number 5 other color composition. We had this color before. But I know I want to leave this white because this is the white I want to use in my background. So if I go back to my background, this is what we had and what we liked. So the way to do that, I'm going to just navigate to my end card composition again. There it is. What I want to do is select this final background color. So I want to have this composition selected, and what I want to do is find the color that I actually want for the background. So let's say maybe it's this blue up here. So if I go through, I can see that that blue is the secondary color. I will select my secondary color composition in the project window. I will hold Alt and I will drag that onto my final background color. And what's really cool is we can do that pretty quickly and just toggle through a few different options. Alright, so that pink kind of works for me, but I actually think I want a black for the final background. What I can do is just create a new composition by going to Composition, New Composition. I'll just call this Black Solid. And now within this black solid composition, I'm just going to hit Ctrl Y, and I'm going to create a new black solid. And now I will navigate back to my end card, select my final background color composition, select my black solid composition in my project window, hold Alt, select that black solid, click and drag to replace the final color composition. Now we have a black background, and if we play it out, we'll see that our animation stays the same. So now I've gone through my background, my bug, end card. Let's check out the logo animation. So same thing I did for my end card. I think I want this background to be black instead of the white, so I will find my final background comp. And in my project window, I will select the black solid comp, hold Alt, select that black solid, and click onto my final background. And that swaps it. So let's go ahead and play that out again. Now let's check out my lower third. That is the font I want to use, but I can always go back and change that font later. Let's check out the sidebar pop-out. So this blue on blue isn't really working for me. We can see in the palette I use there's two blues that are really similar. Maybe I want these lines to be white instead. Let's go ahead and disable one by one to find out which they are. So it looks like this composition, my secondary color is that blue. What I actually want to do is swap that with another color. So let's just swap it with this white for now using that same technique we used before and test that out. And that looks pretty good to me. And of course I want to change my font to match the font I'm using in my lower third. And I think I used Avenir Next. And then in my sidebar, I can go ahead and type in whatever I want. Now with this bounding box, it won't allow our text to go past a certain point, but we can always stretch that out and then our text will go to the extent that we allow this bounding box to go to. I'm going to go ahead and leave this sidebar as is for now. Now let's check out the transitions. Transition A looks pretty good. Now let's look at transition B. Awesome, neither of those transitions need any changes. So now my exports are all set up. I can either dynamic link or just export them. I tend to export because it's just way easier to deal with these assets. So I'm going to select all my compositions in the Export These folder. Then I will go up to File, Export, and I can use either the Adobe Media Encoder queue or just add to my render queue, which I'll do. And in here, I want to change my settings to make sure they have the alpha channel enabled. Up at Format, I tend to use QuickTime, so I'm going to select the QuickTime. I will change my channels from just RGB to RGBA. My format options, I want video codec PNG. I do not need an audio output, so I will just disable that. And everything looks pretty good, so I'm going to hit OK. And now what I want to do with this custom QuickTime is toggle down that arrow and select the Make Template. And I'll just call this QuickTime Alpha, hit OK. And I'll just hit Control A to select everything in my render queue. Toggle down this arrow again and find my QuickTime Alpha export setting. And now that export setting is set to all of my exports. Alright everyone, I hope you found that useful. We have a few templates we're going to be adding, so if you do enjoy this, let us know and we will continue to add more.